What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Court Press. It has been a very, very, very long time coming. Been a long time since you've been able to see the three of our beautiful faces and our Clutch Points friend here, Alexander's face. But we are on stream today. So we'll start with the guest of the hour. Probably Alex's fifth or sixth time being on this show. Alexander Toledo of Clutch Points. How are we doing?
What's good, man? Yes, the new persona was part of the deal. I had to change
we lost him. Continue. We lost him.
He's mysterious. Okay, so I respect that.
He's back.
Oh.
Welcome back. Did I go? I lagged out? What happened?
You did.
Yeah, no, part of the deal is I have to go by Alexander now. It made me do it.
Wow.
It's my professional persona now, No, I'm completely making this up. It's just this is gonna be my persona for holding the Heat accountable.
Good. I'm glad, because that's what we really need. We need people to hold people accountable. Speaking of holding people accountable, Marco, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm back. Not in Europe, or actually technically not Europe. Oh, actually, yeah, Europe. Well, I'm back.
Okay, that's not a hot start.
Dude,
It might
be right now. I just drank
This Wi-Fi is lagging all over the place. So we're gonna give it our third try. We're gonna do a third try here. Ariel Atias.
Yes, sir.
How are you doing tonight?
I'm great, man. Media day came and went. Exciting to see, all the new guys. Of course, we're talking about the Heat here. We are an NBA show, but as everyone knows, we lean Miami Heat just a little bit. So it was great to see, all the new guys in their uniforms, hear from them. And then since then, we've gotten a very tiny, very limited amount of, training camp clips from the Heat from the Heat account. So hopefully, Alex, as a new Clutch Points beat writer for the Miami Heat, you can hold them accountable and get a little bit more out of that for us. But otherwise, man, it's exciting. Basketball's almost back.
Basketball is pretty much back. I mean, we have 5 days, I believe, till
Monday
for the Heat.
Monday, right? Monday night.
It's a beautiful day.
Sunday is the first NBA preseason game.
Right.
Yes, you probably.
But do the Heat play on Sunday?
No, they play Monday, I think.
Okay, so my season starts on Monday.
That's right.
You guys can have your Sunday night. I will be watching football in the comfort of my own home. But anywho, let's get into some media day, because we haven't had an in-person media day in a very long time in the NBA. And I feel like there was a lot of energy behind a lot of these media days across the league. There's still some unsolved mysteries with some teams, some trade rumors and whatnot. And you have the vaccine cloud kind of hanging over the heads of a ton of different organizations across the league. Don't think the Heat have experienced any issues with that yet. But, HIPAA violations or whatever the NBA players decide to consider that as might beg to differ. So, Ariel, I'll actually start with you. What's one of your biggest takeaways from Media Day?
You said me?
Yes.
Man, all right. I guess we'll jump right into it. I want to get into the Kyrie Irving thing because, and again, I know that he's not the only player who's kind of either spoken out against getting vaccinated because he doesn't want to, whatever his personal reasons are. But he, to me, has been just the one that I've thought the most about, just because of his standing on, one of the two best or best teams in the NBA right now. Yeah, I agree. I think they're the best team in the NBA. Look, he definitely is within the what's the word here? Within the vocal minority here, right? We know that over 90% of the players in the NBA are vaccinated. So I don't want to make more out of this than it should be, but man, I don't want to spend too much time on the validity of whether or not a player should have to get vaccinated, because truthfully, I feel that it's a pretty straightforward thing. You should get vaccinated, man. It's your duty to protect yourself and the people around you. During his Zoom presser, he invoked the whole respect my privacy on the matter card. The reality is, your decisions affect other people, not just your team, but people in your life. So it really isn't sensible. It's not fair, in my opinion, to play that card. Now, this is a basketball show, so let's transition to the basketball side of things. He's putting himself in a position to not be available for his team for home games due to New York's regulations on unvaccinated home team players being able to play home games. that's potentially 41 home games plus games versus the Knicks where they are the visiting team, where he wouldn't be available if he chooses to remain unvaccinated. Now, with the Nets' core guys, mainly Kyrie and Harden, being in and out of the lineup last season, as frequently as they were last season, I think this opens the door to certain East contenders to finish higher than perhaps they had, been expected to finish. You really want to, if the East top 6 is something like Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Miami, Atlanta, Philly, Boston, maybe Chicago, something like that, if you finish at 3, right, 3 or 4, you're playing a good team in the first round. If you finish at 2, or if you can get all the way up to 1, it makes a big difference in terms of who your first round opponent is, and it potentially opens up a much easier pathway to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think that, this is a storyline that I'm personally going to be extremely interested in following throughout the season, and I think that it's one that's going to have ramifications for other teams as long as it remains an issue.
Absolutely. It's definitely going to be a huge question mark. Alex, I want to go to you here. What are your thoughts on the whole Kyrie situation? Maybe we can broaden it to like a league-wide sense, because he isn't the only player that's non-vaccinated or outspoken about being non-vaccinated. But he probably is the biggest name player, and he definitely being on what most people like myself believe to be the best team in the NBA, his absence will be felt if he's not there for the Nets for 40-plus games.
There's no doubt about it. Just the fact that that's even being talked about is kind of insane, obviously unprecedented, just like all of this has been for the past year or two, whatever it's been. Lost track of time. I think, by the way, just a side note, I feel like I've heard several different pods talk about, in the talking about time and losing track of it, talk about that Heat bubble run like it was 2-3 years ago. It's literally been 1 year. But the it's just annoying that we're at this point, man. Like, really, that's kind of the only emotion I feel towards it, right? And maybe I shouldn't be just talking about my emotion towards it, because that doesn't really, mean anything. It's like Ariel said, it's pretty simple to me. Like, get vaccinated. It's really that simple. They're gonna lose out, by the way. Not also just going to the games, being a part of the games, being a part of your team, trying to get that number 1 seed. If you're Kyrie or if you're somebody else, whatever your motivation is this season, you're also going to lose out on a whole lot of game checks. Mm-hmm. So it's just smart. Like, obviously, I'm not going to, I wasn't out there on media day asking guys if they were vaccinated or not. I'm not capable of doing that. It's a little bit too weird, but it's also like, you kind of got to do it. You kind of got to do it. Like, I don't know, man. The whole thing is a little bit weird to me that it's still happening. Like Ariel said, most of the guys are vaccinated, so it's not like it's a huge amount of people, but they just have such big profiles, especially a guy like Kyrie, a guy like Brad Beal, right? Like that they're just saying all this misinformation out, putting it out there. It's just that's the worst part about it, because it's like you're validating all these people who have not done any sort of research.
Oh my
right?
goodness.
And just saying all this type of crazy stuff. And so basketball wise, look, if that propels the Heat to a home court advantage spot, all the better.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it would be fantastic if the Heat were able to finally get their first top 2 seed since LeBron left, because they haven't had that. It's been a long time coming. And this is probably the first team where going into the season, we can at least view that as a realistic possibility. We've had playoff teams with playoff expectations. This team has higher expectations than that. Most people have them at the second round, but in the regular season, this team has the potential to be that sort of first or second seed. Marco, I want to go to you with a question here regarding Kyrie. Is he the type of player, because kind of what Alex is alluding to, they're making it really hard in the NBA. You don't have to be vaccinated, but it completely changes your lifestyle if you are not vaccinated during the season, right? So what I want to ask you is, being that Kyrie is someone that treats basketball more so like a 9-to-5, it's what he does. It's not his lifestyle per se. Do you think that the troubles and the difficulty that he would have being an unvaccinated player in the NBA, is there a chance? Well, I guess Marco's not going to get the question asked. Ariel, we'll go to you here. Is there a chance that Kyrie, do you think you could see him maybe taking the year off or just outright retiring if it becomes that difficult for him?
I think it's possible. I think anything's possible with a guy like Kyrie, man. Like, we've heard, that if he got traded from the Nets, he would retire. Again, we have no way of verifying whether or not that's actually the case. But Kyrie's kind of always been a guy who beats to his own drum. And, I don't want to talk down on him, and I'm really going to try not to because I don't know the guy personally. All I know is what's portrayed in the media and what we hear directly from him. But he seems like, yeah, there's that too, definitely. But he seems like the kind of guy who's very much a contrarian. So I don't really know, like maybe, but I think at the end of the day, shout out our guest Alex Toledo. If you're getting docked paycheck after paycheck, you're missing out on, say, 41 home games plus a couple of games as the visiting team against the Knicks. That's 43 games worth. That's more than half your salary for the season. He's making 30-something million. That's upwards of 15 mil. That's a lot of money to lose, man. I know these dudes make a ton of money. Kyrie's, he's very wealthy, makes a lot of money in the NBA, but that's a lot of money to lose. I don't know if this carries into the playoffs, like at what point do his teammates, does this start becoming a real issue within the locker room and for him between the coaching staff, his teammates and himself? So I think at a certain point, like I'm totally guessing here, I think push comes to shove, he's going to get vaccinated. I think most of these dudes are going to have to. And I think it's just a matter of them coming to terms with the reality that that's going to be the case. And just frankly, informing yourself better on the matter. Stop telling people to do their own research. Those are usually the people that are at least informed that say things like that. So I think eventually, if I had to guess, push comes to shove, he gets vaccinated.
I got kicked out. What happened?
I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea. But Marco, we were just talking about, do you think there's any chance that Kyrie would like take the year off or retire given this situation?
I mean, he talked about how if he were traded, he would retire. Like
exactly. That's where I get the idea from.
He strikes me as like the type of guy that would do that. Like we saw him like sit out a week, was it like 2 weeks last season, just to like get within himself or whatever he was saying. Mm-hmm. I think he's the type of dude to like do that for sure. I think Kevin Durant and James Harden would probably talk him out of that. They would try to. I don't know if they would get through to him, but that doesn't seem out of the realm of possibility. He's a different guy. He's built different, I guess, to use a term by Abby Twitter. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. And he's the kind of guy that wants to make sure that he wants to let you know that he's right and he's the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes that's to his detriment a lot, and it's really weird, just like kind of getting this. I don't know. He talks down to a lot of people, especially in the media. He hates the media. We know that. I guess maybe that's why he got out of the vaccination. Like he didn't want to go to media day, so he's like, I'm not going to get shot, and I'll just get into basketball. So maybe that's the reason. But he just talks down to them a lot, and it wouldn't surprise me. Like he just doesn't want to put up with that kind of stuff. And he's a very different guy, and I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I think it is for someone like him. He's probably the unique exception where I think it actually is a possibility, as opposed to the Bradley Beals, the Andrew Wiggins. I think they want to hoop and they want to get their checks. I don't think I think Kyrie, I genuinely believe he could find something more purposeful for his life if push came to shove. He's someone that's very prideful. He could definitely do that. But I don't believe Beal and Wiggins and whatever would forego a full season's worth of paychecks. Speaking of foregoing a full season's worth of paychecks, Marco, I know you wanted to touch on this, but I'm going to swing it to Alex here. Ben Simmons, your favorite player in the NBA on your favorite team in the NBA, he is willing to supposedly forego the entire season if he doesn't play anywhere other than Philly. Alex, how do you feel about this? Are you still trusting the process? Would you rather be the Miami Heat? Give me the whole spiel.
You're just trying to set me up to slam down this lava. I've never trusted the process once in my life. I won't start now. I wish Simmons wouldn't get traded. I hope it just keeps going. Like this just keeps lasting for the whole season, and it's just like this ongoing saga, and it's really dragged out. It's like, wow, what a piece of shit organization. I'm done with the Sixers, man. Like I'm tired of this. And look, I'm a little bit biased right now because I was listening to more preview pods and different, and I'm getting into that mode where it's like people are still throwing the Sixers in the category with the Bucks and the Nets. Yes, what are we doing? They got eliminated by the Hawks. Like I don't get this angry, but when it comes to the Sixers, it's like I thought we knew. I thought we understood now. But people that I really, really respect are still throwing them in that tier. And I understand, like, they were a really good team. They were the number 1 seed last season. I completely understand that. I just think, like, we all know what's going to happen in the playoffs. That's why I wanted to continue, because you know what? It's fun. Every time they get set up as this team that's expected to do more, it doesn't work out. I get mad about the expectations, but then when it doesn't work out, it feels even better. So it's actually a nice circle. I hope the circle continues, because it's never going to work. The Simmons and Embiid team, like, I understand Simmons and Embiid, the lineups were positive. I would assume so. If you win 60 games or whatever, like, the lineups of your 2 best players are going to be positive. But I just don't think it's ever going to be something that's able to get them where they want to go or where they think they can be. And so, again, I hope he doesn't get traded. I feel like if he does get traded, it's going to be like D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley. The Sixers are still going to be a pretty good team, but they're not going to be in the Bucks Nets type of conversation. Like, they're not going to get a guy in return that's going to be able to put them in that tier.
I agree. It's going to be very tough for them to get the return that they probably would have liked to have gotten for Ben Simmons. And now Daryl Morey is sitting with his hands on his ass. Like, he has nothing to do. There's no way he can win this scenario. It is a lose-lose, which, as a Heat fan, which we all are, this is a beautiful situation for the Miami Heat. It is super fun to watch this team implode. And I like Joel Embiid, the player. I think I like Joel Embiid, the person, although I've never met him. He's boys with Jimmy, so that means transitive property. I'm boys with him. I wish I pray on their downfall. I really do. Marco, I do want to hit you with a basketball question here, because a lot has been made of Ben Simmons' fit and how Philly didn't correctly build around him and they didn't cater to his strengths or whatever. What is Ben Simmons' ideal situation? Because he's not a guard. Is he really a 4? Is he a 4 that just plays on the block? Like, what situation? There's maybe a specific team you could draw up a situation for. Where would you want to see him, regardless of trade package? Just insert the player into a different situation.
Okay, so before I get on that, I want to touch on the if he's going to come back stuff. I think that's a foregone conclusion now. He's willing to cut those checks. I think he cares even less about basketball than Kyrie, in a sense, in terms of getting better. That's for sure. I don't think he's coming back. It's way different than the Aaron Rodgers stuff. The Aaron Rodgers stuff, he was an all-time great. They wanted him back, so I don't think he's gonna be. They're gonna. Oh, we want you back. That's a bunch of BS. They're just pandering to whatever to their coach. Their coach is pandering to the GM, and the GM is just pandering to whoever can trade for him. All right. So let's get into the basketball sense. I think for him, a perfect situation is probably in Minnesota, where he's going to be the secondary guy to like Karl Anthony Towns, who actually plays in the perimeter. I don't think Joel Embiid plays in the perimeter like that. People say he shoots threes. He's not really like a 3-point threat, even though he shot pretty decently last year. Yeah, exactly. That's what every playoff team has like pretty much baited him into doing, and that's how they beat them, because he's tired. He doesn't want to go inside whenever he eventually scores 40 points through the first 3 games, and then you're like, okay, keep doing that. But he like gets too tired and he just starts shooting from outside, and then you play right into the defense's hands, and that's what's happened the last time they've been eliminated from the playoffs. So I think a perfect situation is that. But when you're Ben Simmons and you're as talented as he is, you shouldn't need the perfect situation. When Jimmy Butler came to Miami, it wasn't like perfect. They had Myers Leonard starting with Bam Adebayo for like most of the games. He didn't really have that much space in his second year with Miami and still put up insane numbers. You shouldn't need the perfect situation when you're as talented as he is, and he shouldn't be. He's not regarded in that way amongst NBA people, like where we're gonna put the perfect team around you every year. No, you're gonna have to put up or shut up, pretty much. So I don't think he has the right to talk like that. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah,
I'm getting really angry for no reason.
That's a fantastic way to put it, though. Like, the situation isn't always going to be perfect, and you have to adjust around it. I do want to touch on this comment here from Don't Mind Me. All Ben Simmons has to do is shoot free throws. He's too big not to get fouled 5 to 6 times, and he can average 10 to 12 points easy.
Oh my god.
I'm not really sure where we're going with that one, just because he's averaged like I think around 15 points every single season of his career. So maybe if you're talking about just driving, he could average 10 to 12. Yeah, he could if he had Giannis's mentality, but he's not 50% of the player that Giannis is offensively, in my opinion.
There's a spectrum, right? And he's like at the opposite end of Giannis.
Like
he also shoots like
comparisons,
50%
I think are
on free
purely
throws.
physical and athletically, because like skill set wise, footwork wise, like strength, like mentality, Giannis is ferocious when he's going to the rim. Ben Simmons is the antithesis of that.
Nobody believes he wants to score or go to the rim to actually score.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and Giannis is also like literally the most dominant low post scorer we've had. One of the most dominant low post scorers in NBA history. So I mean, there's definitely a spectrum there. And
I mean, outside of Omer Yurtseven, like I really can't think of anybody else. Like that's really it. Okay, let's get into another comment here from Alex M. LMBO, Ben Simmons is an elite defender. That's about it. Should be coming off the bench in clutch situations on D.
That's a little too far.
That's literally that's what happened.
How he used Derek.
This is right. Last playoffs against the Hawks, for those last 3 games, he was Andre Roberson with a handle. That was it.
Andre Roberson bringing the ball up and making a pass to a shooter. Look, I will say though, as much as I talk shit about Ben Simmons, and I think the Timberwolves would be like a whatever situation. Like I think basketball-wise, it's a nicer fit. I think, Kat, obviously we know the Timberwolves wouldn't make any type of real noise. They would just be a middling team trying to get into the play-in.
Okay,
but
I think they make the play-in if they get
I don't know, man. How much better does he really make them overall?
Exactly. I think a lot better.
No, I think he makes them better, but I'm saying, okay, D'Angelo Russell goes out. Say that's the package that's built around him. D'Lo goes out. You get Ben Simmons. They're better, but how much better? Like they're not close to the play-in.
I think they're substantially better, if I'm being honest with you. Especially if you're able to keep McDaniels.
Right.
That defense would be very fun.
That's the thing. I'm not sure about the.
Oh, Twan, I do not agree with that. He said they'd be better than Memphis. I'm not there.
Oh man.
I don't
agree
know.
That's an interesting
The
one.
star power is
no.
Depends on how much you believe in Anthony Edwards' like big leap.
That's true.
That's a good point. Yep.
But
That's kind of hard to quantify. You're right.
The Warriors is the one that I'm scared of. I don't want to see Ben Simmons on the Warriors. I really don't. Like that's the situation to me that I could see him really get turned into like a mismatch. Like he's like we thought he was going to be, right? It would just be in a different type of role than I think was imagined for him when he came out of LSU or even after he became a point guard when he started on the Sixers or whatever. Like I just think you put him around Steph and Clay and how good he is at finding shooters, you know, the spacing they're going to create for him. And I think he could play with Draymond because Draymond would serve as like their interior defender and he would serve as like Ben would be the perimeter guy. Like I just think it will be easier to make work than people would think. And I think, you know, if in an ideal situation, as far as from Ben Simmons' angle, I think that would be the perfect situation for him.
How do y'all feel about Ben Simmons in Portland for a CJ-centered package? Next to Dame.
I mean,
sounds like
that's been a rumor for like 2 years now, right?
Right. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if Portland is the type of place that is all of a sudden going to just unlock Ben Simmons, right? I just don't see that happening. I honestly don't know if any situation is going to get that, but I feel like it's going to have to be a place where there is literally zero expectation. When you finally don't expect him to become anything.
That's the thing.
But it's just like at what point does it stop becoming about how do we best maximize Ben Simmons' strengths while negating his weaknesses? And at what point does it become when do you get better, dude? Like exactly. Like at what point is this about you, man? It's been, you know, everything but Ben Simmons. I don't know, man. I don't feel like it is. I feel like a lot of the discourse around the topic is where does Ben Simmons end up? Because Clutch wants him to be on a team where he is the man and his strengths are maximized, where they can play fast and everything's about him and he just runs the show. But at what point is the onus on him to become a better player? He is literally the same player he was when he got drafted.
Yep. If he wants a team like that, I will personally buy him a ticket from Philadelphia, a bus ticket, because I'm not spending that much money on him. I will buy him a bus ticket from Philadelphia to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and he can grind it out with Javonte Smart, Micah Potter, Drew Smith, DJ Stewart. And he will be on a winning team. He will be a good player in the playoffs there.
We'll be the center.
We can figure it out from there.
The centerpiece, I'm sorry.
He is absolutely the centerpiece. That's his team. But outside of that, I really don't see that happening. Like, I don't know what team you put Ben Simmons on right now, and he's absolutely the best player, specifically offensively. That's not going to happen in the NBA. But I do want to get to something else. Thank you, Alex Baher. I think we're going to go with that being your last name. Sorry if I botched that. Also, shout out, don't mind me. Didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just very confused as to your answer, but we're on the same page now. So let's get to another takeaway from Media Day here. I don't know if we have the photos of Zion, but it sounds like Zion had a phantom foot surgery. I saw someone on Twitter say he looks like an inflated DK Metcalf, and I was genuinely laughing out loud when I saw that. If you were just being an NBA fan, are you worried about Zion with his weight? Because I know this was a question going into his rookie year, and I think he kind of quelled concerns on that last year. He was in good shape going into the season. Adios, Marco. And where are we at with Zion's weight now? Because if those photos mean anything, he's got to be close to 300 pounds.
I don't even know what to think about it. I really don't. Like, I hope it all goes well, right? Like, I'm hoping for the best with Zion. I think he's one of the most electrifying players in the league right now, and I want it to go well. Like, I want the Pelicans to be pretty good so that he's motivated, be in good shape, he stays healthy. I mean, the thing is, I also don't want the Pelicans to be good because I want the Ingram stuff to happen again. You know, I want that to resurface. But I'm hoping for the best for Zion. This is scary, and I think it's scary for a couple of different reasons. For him, like the injury stuff, but then for defenders, it's like, oh my God, I would not want to get in that dude's way ever. I mean, that was already the case. Of course, you never want to get in his way. But my God, like, he's a tank, bro. What the hell is going on?
He's legitimately massive, and he is Shaquille O'Neal. If Shaquille O'Neal was a photo on Microsoft Word, just drag the top right corner and you smushed it down a little bit, that's Zion Williamson. Like the same exact thing.
If Mario did like a nice ground pound on you would tell him.
Like don't get me wrong, Zion is still an absolutely ridiculous player, and he's going to be a force in this league for as long as he's healthy. It's just at what point do the weight concerns concern you from a health perspective, if they haven't already? Because it is hard to be as physical and play defense. His problem last year was he didn't play defense. If he plays defense, he's probably a top 10 player in the NBA, if we're being honest.
That's kind of the Pelicans' problem, like as a whole. But you're right, man. Like, dude needs to get in better shape. Like, at what point does it start becoming a real issue where like he's missing games, he's getting hurt? Because I mean, with the force that he plays with, how much he's inside, how much he's a high flyer, right? So like he does a whole lot of jumping and dunking, and it's just, I mean, what does he weigh? Like 280 something, like at least, and he looks like he might have put on weight. You think he weighs more than 285 or 280?
Alejandro, can we put the photo up again, please?
There's no way.
Oh, man.
Jeez. Like, he definitely didn't come back in better shape. Now, I understand there was a foot surgery, so that for sure contributes. That picture's gold. That for sure contributes to that. But I mean, man, like, I'd be worried if I were a Pelicans fan. Like, you want to see your number one overall pick, the guy that you've invested so much into, as being like the franchise cornerstone, the guy who's going to carry you going forward, that you've got all this hope and everything built into. Like, you need to get in better shape, man. Like, it's gonna, because at a certain point it's going to start mattering. Like, as he gets a little bit older, if he maintains the same type of physique, the injuries are going to start coming, and I want to see the dude do well. So I hope he gets in better shape.
Slim down. Like, they're not going to get better on D if he can't move.
Well, you said what?
They're not going to get better on D if he can't move. He needs
to no, definitely not. I really want to watch him and Kristaps Porzingis play defense, because neither of them move at this point in their careers. That would be very fun. Like, if Kristaps
like completely different body types, like opposite ends of the spectrum too.
Yeah, you have one really big tree and one really stumpy tree, and neither of them move. But anywho, I do want to talk about the actual basketball fit of the New Orleans Pelicans. I don't think we've done that much on the Full Court Press. Really quickly, do you guys think they're a team that finally etches their way into the play-in game? I think what Willie Green could bring from the Suns is actually kind of being underrated. I know he's a first-time coach, but I actually like that move compared to Stan Van Gundy, because it's someone that plays more modern style of basketball while still keeping it in the half court. If Monty Williams is his mentor, which we should assume he is, How do you guys feel about the Pelicans this year? I know they had some questionable moves in terms of value, but ultimately I do think they got better from last season. Like I think Devontae Graham is a fantastic fit for their team, and I think Jonas Valanciunas is one of the most underrated centers and interior presences in the entire NBA. Plus development of Zion and Brandon Ingram, Nikhil Alexander-Walker, Jackson Hayes. Do you guys think this is the year they make the play-in?
It's tough. I'm not sure, but I think I'm still super concerned about their defense. The difference is now I think they're going to be a lot more potent on offense. I think, like you said, Jonas, Devontae Graham, those guys are going to give you a boost. I think Satoransky's a nice, solid player who's actually decent at defense, right? And obviously nothing great. Garrett Temple, similar type of thing. Satoransky is going to get like a nice 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes. I don't know how much, but I just think they're going to be more organized on offense. They're going to have so much better spacing now that it's not Lonzo Bledsoe and Steven Adams starting with their two best players, which just never made sense. So I just think they're going to be more potent. I'm just not sure if they're going to be able to stick with it for the whole season. Like if it starts off bad, I think this has the potential to get ugly, not because they don't have the talent or the fits or whatever. I just think those bad vibes off season that was going on, rumors of David Griffin almost getting canned, and Zion and Ingram maybe both wanting out. Like, I don't know what's going on there. So I don't know. I feel like they're the most volatile team. They should be better. And they're 100% deeper than they were last season. They're going to get internal improvement. I think Jackson Hayes is coming back from injury. So they're deep as all hell. I think they're going to be fun. I'm just worried that they kind of collapse if it doesn't start off right.
I will say this. Do not sleep on my guy, Herb Jones, out of Herbert Jones.
I was just looking at that name on the roster, and I said, is that an actual dude or did someone edit this?
Menace defensively. I'm telling you, he strikes me as a Heat guy. I was really upset when we didn't buy into the second round to try to get him, but then he went around 36th overall, I believe. So it made sense. We're not
how old is he?
Herb, I think he's like 23.
So he was born in 1998, and his parents named him Herbert.
Is that bad? That sounds like a dog to me. What's PJ Tucker's full name?
Are you trying to reference something?
No, I'm just saying that feels like a name that you wouldn't use. Well, definitely.
My name is
today.
Daddy.
Feels like an old name.
I'm in no position to roast anybody about a name.
I think you have a wonderful name, personally.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But Herb Jones, just saying, watch out for him. And I believe they drafted Trey Murphy as well. Good fit for them, kind of like the 3/4. I do ultimately like the Pelicans offseason. I just think Herbert is an English bulldog name. That is a fantastic comment. He is a dog, so I guess it kind of qualifies. Yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher on the Pelicans than everybody else. I think this might be the year they end up making the play-in. I might take them over Memphis. I know Memphis should be a good team. But when you look at what they lost in Jonas Valanciunas, I think that makes a big difference.
And Justice Winslow.
Yeah, what they lost in Jonas Valanciunas, I think that makes a big difference. Zaire Williams, fun player. I think they could be decent, but not feeling great about Memphis.
I'll be honest. I kind of don't love. I mean, I don't love New Orleans offseason. Like Jonas Valanciunas is a better player than Steven Adams at this point in their careers for sure. But he's better offensively. He'll make you better there. But like, I think the way for them to be most successful is putting Zion at the 5. If they're going to suck defensively, just put out the most potent offensive lineup you possibly can. I think that includes Zion at the 5. If you put Jonas Valanciunas at the 5, or like they had last season where Steven Adams was playing at the 5, like Jonas will stretch the floor a little bit. He'll shoot some threes for sure. He's a pretty solid 3-point shooter, but he does a lot of his damage from the low post in that mid-range area. So like, I think he kind of clogs the floor a little bit for Zion. If I were, making decisions down there, like I'm putting Zion at the 5, I'm getting as much shooting around him. If they're going to suck on defense, just be the best offensive team you can. And I don't think they're there.
I guess I hear you in what you're saying. If last year with Eric Bledsoe and Steven Adams, they set Pelicans basketball back to the 1970s. I think this year they're about 1990. And then next year, maybe they'll be modern day. So it is progress. Marco, if you are with us. Okay.
I don't think you can hear us. Okay.
We'll wait for Marco to return. But he is very knowledgeable about Texas bigs. I think I would like to get Marco's opinion on Jackson Hayes. Marco, you might be on mute.
You're definitely on mute. Okay.
I don't think you can hear us.
He's thinking. He's just thinking. It's all good.
Or it's lagging. I can't tell what's going on right now.
Okay, so the last question before we get to the Heat, because I do want to touch on this. I tweeted about them earlier in the week. I'm not 100% sure that the Clippers are going to be a top 7 team in the Western Conference. I have them at 8.
Yeah, it's fair.
Would you guys be surprised, like very surprised, if the Clippers didn't make the playoffs?
Oh, yeah.
I would not be surprised. I've got them in the play-in, like somewhere between 8 and 10. I mean, if you look at the starting 5, I think Ty had mentioned the starting 5. It was something like Reggie Jackson, Bledsoe, Paul George,
Morris, and Ibaka, or Zubac.
Morris, Zubac. Yeah, Morris and Zubac. Like, to me, in the West, that's like a 500 team.
Yeah. It's not great.
Yeah, I was looking at Gad's crazy stat of the week. We haven't done this in a long time. They had the most efficient spot up offense since 2015. And the only reason I don't have numbers before that, I would imagine it's maybe the most efficient spot up offense of all time. The only reason I don't have numbers before that is because NBA.com does not track those stats past 2015. That means they shot better in a regular season than the KD, Clay, and Steph Warriors.
So
over like 2 seasons. This team last year was unbelievable. They shot 1.24 points per possession, which pretty much means they had the same efficiency shooting threes than we had on hitting Bam on rolls.
It's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane, that number. Like, there's obviously going to be regression, so I definitely get why, that roster is not – it really does not stand out, especially talking about the West, even with the Nuggets missing Murray or whatever. Like, it's just too deep. Like, you're going to have to be, like, in the top of your game every night. Paul George is going to have to really – they're going to have to – he's going to have to get used like Jimmy the past.
I think it is possible for PG to kind of have a year like that, though.
He could, for sure, but it's going to be like, no margin for error for them to get a decent seed.
That's my problem with their team. They need a lot of things to go their way, and they also have no margin for error with their best players. I did want to get to one quote from Kawhi Leonard that I thought was interesting. The reason why he extended this year, because financially it didn't make that much sense if he wasn't going to play the entire season. The reason why he extended for 4 years this offseason, he wants to try to give it a go by the end of the season to be ready for the playoff run if healthy. I just thought that was very telling, very interesting. So if Kawhi's the one that's pushing himself, maybe I might be sleeping on the Clippers a little bit. But Marco, we kind of talked about this in the chat. Is it crazy for the Clippers to miss the playoffs this year?
No.
Good.
When you look at the roster, it looks better on papers because of the All-Star appearances, like the All-Star that they have in Paul George. When you have an All-Star, it can always raise your ceiling, but they also have a very low floor. And there's a lot of shot variance that comes with that. Like the Dallas Mavericks experienced that just last year and the year before. The year before, they were one of the best shooting teams in the league. The next year, they had pretty much the same roster. That shooting variance really hit them, and they kind of dipped down in that efficiency while everybody else kind of jumped over them. That kind of shooting variance really scares me. Especially when you replace a lot of those guys with Eric Bledsoe and Justice Winslow. Sorry, Justice. We love you. Justice better, by the way. Shout out to Alex. You know what that means. And that does scare me. I do have the Clippers still making the playoffs, but I think their floor is is lower than a lot of those other teams because of the Kawhi injury. They relied a lot on one-on-one creation by Paul George and by Kawhi. I think they can probably get away with it for a good half of the season. And then the second half, it's going to be a lot harder on Paul George because that's a lot for one guy to carry for self-creation standards. And you're not going to count on Reggie Jackson being that guy for that he was in the playoffs for that long.
I think that's what
if they do, then and that's the scary part. You don't want that. You want to be the Pacers from 2014, where you're kind of like you're average on offensive efficiency, and you hope that your defense, which the Clippers had an underrated defense last year at the end of the season, so you hope that kind of takes you over that hump. But I think it's still scary for the Clippers, but I still have them finishing at like 7th for now.
They got to be nasty on defense, right? Like if they want to have a good seed, I think, or not nasty in the sense of like top 5, top 3. I think they got to be good. They got to be good if they want to get a good seed, and they're going to have to grind teams out because, like Marco said, I just don't think that play style of running everything through PG is sustainable. Again, the shooting variance is huge. They're probably going to dip a little bit, especially because teams have already seen it coming. I think they're not going to underestimate Reggie Jackson as much as maybe they did last season. Maybe I'm making that up, but I just think roster-wise, they're going to have to grind games down. And the key to all of this, if I'm being brutally honest, Justice Winslow, baby. No, but really, I just think the team needs to – they're going to be the team that's like, oh, we're playing 10, 11 guys. We're just trying to get through the season. Try not to gas out PG too much. Make it into the playoffs. Like, just get there.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we're at with the Clippers. Ariel, any last thoughts on the Clippers before we transition to the Miami Heat?
Oh, we're going Heat. I'll make this quick. I just don't think they have enough. Like, frankly, Paul George's a great player. I have questions about his ability to do that over the course of a full season at this point in his career. I mean, it's possible, but I just don't. For whatever reason, I don't like the roster construction without Kawhi. I think Kawhi masks a lot of the weaknesses and just kind of, being that level of player, being that great of a player makes a lot of things work. I think you're plugging in Eric Bledsoe into that starting five. I don't really see it. I can think off the top of my head of 7 or 8 teams in the West that I think on paper are better than this Clippers team is on paper. Of course, games aren't played on paper, so anything could happen. But I think in the West, it's going to be tough. They look like a 500 team to me if Kawhi misses the entire season. And if you're a 500 team in the West, you're lucky to get the 10 seed. So I don't really see it.
Yep. And their win total is at about, I think, 45.5 or 46.5. So I did tweet about that the other day.
Hell no.
Go under.
Yeah. Hammer the under.
Hang the under.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But let's get to the team of the hour, the Miami Heat. So, Alex, Alexander, Mr. Clutch Points, since you are our resident in-person reporter, credentialed Miami Heat reporter, you were at training camp, media day, whatever it was. What was your biggest takeaway from either the quotes that you heard from somebody else, or just what you saw in person from players?
Muscle Watch. We're on Muscle Watch. This is the latest, and Alejandro putting me on the big screen. This is the latest version of Muscle Watch, man. I think it's so real. I love doing this, but it's so real this time. Like, seeing it all its glory. I haven't seen these guys in years, and that transformation was real. I just think, Bam, like, it was really like intimidating. It's like, Jesus, dude, how did you put on so much bulk in your damn arm? Like, his shoulders are massive now. They look bigger than they did before, right? When he was beating all those Alonzo Mourning weightlifting records. So just seeing that, the guys having a long off season, I think is going to be the biggest theme of all this, of their resurgence. And they all look like in great spirits. You could tell that they're not nearly as gassed out as they were last season. I just think between Bam looking huge, Depot looking swole, Tyler looking more athletic and a little bit bigger. Like, I just think the team is physically, and I've said this on different pods already, I just think they're not going to get bullied anymore, man. Like, I can't emphasize that enough. Between the additions of PJ and Markieff on the front court there, Lowry in the back court, Bam getting bigger, bringing back Dedmon, I just think it won't be nearly as much of a factor as it has been the past couple of seasons. You can't really kill them like that anymore. And I just think they have so many different ways they can play now, and they know it. I think they all know they're going to be a damn good team and better than I think people expect.
Yeah, that's one of the vibes that I got from the quotes from all the players, just random tidbits here and there. There's a lot of confidence in that building from day one. They look like they believe in themselves. They sound like they believe in themselves. That's a very, very good thing. Marco Romo, what was your biggest takeaway from Media Day? I know you wrote a fantastic article up on the 5 Reasons Sports website, but what was your biggest takeaway from Heat Media Day, or maybe what you've seen from training camp so far? You are on mute. There we go. Oh, there we go.
No, all right. I wanted to ask Alex about this because I wasn't there, so I couldn't get like a real sense. But just like from watching the videos and all the interviews, it just kind of felt like there was a weight lifted off everybody's back from last year. And that's what I wrote about. It felt like everybody was finally putting last season behind them. They looked so happy to have an actual off season. Like a lot of these guys are really young and they haven't really experienced this. Like Tyler Hero, he just hit one of the biggest shots in Heat history against the Celtics less than a year ago at the time of the start of media day, which is crazy when we think about it. Like the first game against the Hawks in preseason is going to be before the last game of the NBA Finals in 2020. Just think about that. That's crazy to me, and that's pretty much the general census of what I got was. There's a lot of optimism, and there's always a lot of optimism during media day, so it didn't surprise me. So I just wanted to ask Alex about that, about if he felt that kind of same general consensus around the team of, okay, we're done with last year. It was a bunch of BS. We're ready for the new year. We're ready to look ahead.
It's 100%, dude. Like everything you said in that article, by the way, 5reasonsports.com, great stuff. The vibes in the room were great, and you could tell, like you said, there was a whole lot of weightlifting, but there was a weight lifted off their shoulders. I just think the vibes are immaculate, baby. Like they're good in there. It's good in there. I think they all feel good. They all feel refreshed. It was. Leif, me, Sean Rochester did a podcast with Naveen Ganglani tonight as well, and we were talking about that. And he asked me to use a word to describe it, and I said bouncy, and I just think they were very like it was that first day of school vibes where you're jittery, you're excited, except they're going to be playing basketball. So it's obviously different than going to class or whatever. But I just think like specifically remembering Tyler Hero and the way that he was talking out there to the media, he's just moving around and he's like all over the place. And it was like he was in a good mood, smiling a lot. And Tyler doesn't usually, smile a lot or talk a lot, but he was in a good place. And that's the one like sticking image that's there, because you already know the vibes were great when it came to Jimmy, Kyle, Bam, PJ came in there. It was just cool seeing all these guys in person, and you could tell they think highly of themselves.
I love it.
So it was like everybody just had that feeling whenever you get a new haircut, pretty much.
Exactly. That's what it was, man. Jimmy with the braids, Bam with the regular, with back to the fade. I don't know, man. The team got a haircut.
Kyle Lowry in Miami Heat shape.
Big one. Hero's a dad.
For the first time ever, Lowry is in proper shape.
Finally.
I did want to get to Ariel. I'll start with you here. I want to go around the horn on this question from Don't Mind Me. He asked pretty good questions here. So first, if Depot comes back 80%, we'll say 80% is what he was last year. So if he's the same type of player he was last year for the Rockets and the Heat, does he end games? Is he closing over Tyler and Duncan?
I think it kind of depends on the matchup, but if I'm making that assumption about Oladipo, I would say that I think the Heat's best lineup, if they're at full strength, looks something like Kyle, Depot, Duncan, Jimmy, and Bam, where you go small and you just wreak havoc on the perimeter defensively. Potentially that could be a thing. I think it depends on the matchup too, though. Like if you're playing a really, really big team and, you're coming down the stretch of the game, last 5 minutes, close game, I don't really know. What do you need? You need shooting, you need stops. Like the Heat, Spo has at his disposal a bunch of really good defenders, both on the perimeter and in those intermediate areas where, if depending on what's needed in the game, like you can stagger some of your shooters with phenomenal defenders, and then maybe you having Tyler and Duncan or one of them close, and you go with a more conventional lineup where you have somebody like PJ Tucker at the 4 next to Bam at the 5, or you're able to go small. You go Kyle, Depot, Duncan, Jimmy, Bam, and you just kill teams defensively on the perimeter. So, yeah, I think it's a possibility, but it kind of depends on the matchup.
Totally agree with that. So we'll go to a yes or no answer for Alex and Marco before we get to Royals donation, then back to Ariel for his biggest takeaway. Alex, Depot close if he's the same player as last year?
I think he'll close some games if he's looking like that, for sure. I think it, like Marco said, depends on the matchup, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him close a lot. Because that's a good question also, because Tyler was such a big closer for so long. Mm-hmm. We haven't even factored him. Everybody's been hyping up the starting lineup being that closing lineup for obvious reasons, of course. So it's like they could go a lot of different ways, which makes me feel good about it. Who's doing who's performing well that game, what type of matchup they got out there. They just got so much more optionality, going small, going big, whatever it is they want to do. They have more options to be able to do it, even if the team isn't as deep as we want it to. I think there's a lot of good lineup variability that they can have. So yeah, throw Depot into some of those closing lineups and throw him in. I want to see those lineups that Ariel was talking about, Jimmy at the 4, with Depot, Duncan, Kyle type of thing throughout the game. And I don't know how much we'll see that because I think they'll be more staggering than anything. But like in a playoff series, right? Throughout, when it starts to get ugly, they need to get points. Like throwing a lineup out there like that could really, I think, give them a jolt. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see those sprinkled in.
Something to mention real quick is that in prior seasons, I think prior to last season, Victor Oladipo was a really good or at least above. I don't remember the exact number, but I had looked into this a while ago, and he was above average as a catch and shoot 3-point shooter. So, I mean, when he does it off the bounce, the percentage goes down. But in those kind of lineups, he's not going to be the primary ball handler. He's going to get more looks out of, Bam short rolls to the rim, Kyle getting to the rim, Jimmy getting to the rim, where he's just going to be in a spot up type position from 3. And I think that those lineups, you kind of just think of Duncan Robinson and Kyle Lowry as the primary shooters in those lineups. But like, don't be surprised if Eric Spoelstra feels comfortable going with those lineups because Victor Oladipo is functioning very well offensively as a cutter and catch and shoot 3-point shooter.
Absolutely. Marco.
I'll go shorter because these guys went really elaborate on it, but they covered all the points pretty much for me. I'm going to say yes if he's at 80% because Spo values versatility more than just certain, shooting or just being a defender. And Victor offers more versatility, and Spo like always love that kind of stuff for closing lineups. So I'll say he finishes pretty much more than the majority of the games if he's at 80%, because 80% is still like a really damn good player. I think that's even better than what he was last year. Because last year I think he wasn't even at that. He was not. He was very, very, very inefficient last year.
Yeah, he was playing on a detached quad, and it was just like he was dunking on guys in a couple of those games. Man, he was getting to the rim pretty consistently relative to like what we expected. I feel like so that's why I'm just generally optimistic for whenever he does come back that he'll work his way in a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the Heat optimism or me just reading too much into his quotes. But I feel like I've never heard him be so candid kind of about his recovery in any of his other stops and like how he's come back from this whole quad situation. He was very open. And I feel like that kind of being open with it is comfort, knowing that he's going to be able to get back to what he wanted to be. Maybe he isn't, but that's kind of the vibe that I got from Media Day is he's probably more confident in his leg than he's been since the injury, which is a very big deal for a player like him because the ability has never been in doubt. It's been the confidence and the health. So, I mean, that's
He also really, I think he also really wants to be in Miami too, and that contributes to some of that as well.
Ooh, Ariel, check the private chat. Marco left you a little gift. That's all I'm gonna say. But
thank you, Marco. See, Marco mentions that Victor Oladipo was 40% on catch and shoot threes. That's right. Like I remember looking into it, and he was very good on catch and shoot threes. So I think in some of those lineups, the fit's a little bit cleaner than it looks on paper, and those are not strictly defensive lineups.
Yeah,
I want to add that the player that shot the highest was Kendrick Nunn on Miami. Second highest was Victor Oladipo, who barely played with the team.
Yeah, 4 games, small sample size.
No, I mean like if you took his Houston averages. Like he would be second on the team on Miami.
Oh, he was 40% in Houston?
I remember looking into it prior to just last season that he was a very good catch and shoot 3-point shooter.
Prior, yes. I thought in Houston he was poor, but we could.
That's surprising.
Into that. That's wild if he was shooting 40% last year because he was still ridiculously inefficient. But I think it's similar to Jimmy where it's the pull-up ability is no longer there from range, but the spot-up ability is. I mean that's a significantly easier shot in the NBA. But I've been trying to get to Royals Dono here, and I will finally be reading it. Hey guys, we are going to be reunited soon. # Tyler Hero is my hero. Thank you for the donation, Royal. And if you did not know, Royal has turned on being anti-Team Hero, and he's now Team Hero. So this year, the post games.
I was wondering what that was.
Show,
As soon as that pull-up transition 3-on-1 hits, though.
it's crazy how they switch up
we'll see.
when Hero misses the transition 3. But when he hits it against Philadelphia to win the game in Embiid's face, it's a completely different story.
All is well.
So any last words here before we head out?
Dog pound.
Yes, that's where I was going with that PJ Tucker quote. Dog pound. I love it. It's a lot of what we expected to hear, right? Like you expect that, like you guys had mentioned. You expect that on media day. You expect all the optimism and all of that stuff. But I think we've seen this coming for a couple months now, where like the makeup of this team lends itself to being very, very much within the mold of like a Pat Riley team, where they're just going to be tough. They're going to be nasty. No one's going to want to play them. We are going to absolutely love this team. I just hope they can stay healthy, and I hope that they live up to expectations, because I think this team is going to be better than most people think.
I agree with you. I don't know if Alex has muted himself or something, or if he's injecting himself with the culture vaccine. I'm not 100% sure. But I already know I got my second dose. I did want to end off with one last question, a stat projection, because I think we have two people here, maybe all four of us are kind of split 2-2 on PJ Tucker's offensive abilities. So,
Ooh.
PJ Tucker, over under 4 points per game this year. Ariel, we'll start with you.
Over 6.5.
So, 6.5?
It's 2 threes and maybe a free throw or something. I'll say 6. 2 threes.
I would love to see what situation PJ Tucker gets a free throw. That would be
That's why as soon as I said that, I said maybe not the free throw, but
that would be a fantastic case study. Marco, over under. Did I say 4?
You said 4.
4.
4?
Yeah.
I'll go over 5 at 5.5. Just that's it. I don't trust him to make a layup.
Yeah, no, me neither.
So,
Alex.
So it's 4.5?
4.
It's 4.
Oh. Yeah, this is really tough, yo. I'm going to say slightly over. Slightly. I was about to go under. I'm going to say slight. If it's 4, I'm going to say 4. It's 4.2 or 4.3, something like that.
I'm thinking like 4.1 also. I
mean, last year he was under 4, so I mean.
And that was was that with Houston too?
Offense.
What's that?
Was that with Houston too? He was under 4?
3.74 the season.
Yikes.
I think he'll get a little bit more usage on the offense. Not usage. I don't want to call it like it's not like he's gonna have the ball in his hands, but I think he'll get that. It'll get sprayed to him a few times a game. He'll have an opportunity to put up threes. I think he'll take a few a game and probably make 2. One and a half.
He'll put them up.
Yeah.
No, the end result, that's to TBD, but he'll put them up. He'll get some shots up.
Grizzlies going to finish higher than the Pelicans.
I agree.
I think that's my last thing. Jaren Jackson's going to come back and give him the boost, and the Pelicans are going to collapse.
Interesting. Very
I'm just going to plant my flag now. Fuck it. Why not?
Is that big of a take whenever that's happened the past 2 years?
No, it's not. It's definitely not. That's why I'm like, yeah, I think that's just gonna happen. They're gonna collapse again. The vibes are all the way off over there.
See, last year I planted my flag on the Clippers making it to the finals, and I was a quiet ACL, I believe, from being correct.
Yeah,
I really do think I was.
I think so too.
I'm gonna plant my flag on the Clippers not being a top 8 seed. They might still make the playoffs via play-in. I'm going to plant my flag on them not being a top 8 seed in the Western Conference. Any flag plants before we go?
I think no, but I probably would have gone similar to you. I don't have them as a top 8 team either, like I said earlier. So
the Knicks might not make the playoffs. How about that?
Oh my goodness.
I don't think that's going to happen.
They're 12. The East is 12 deep. So the Knicks got better, and I get that Thibodeau's a great regular season coach. I'm just like, damn, this. Go ahead, Marco.
I'm going to say the Hornets finish with a better record than the Knicks. That's my flag.
I think I could see that, man. I just think they're good. Like the Raptors might be good. The Pacers are going to be better. The Bulls are going to be in there. Then we talk about other teams already expecting to be good. Then you talk about the Wizards. Like there's just so many teams trying to get in there. The Knicks just like, what if they're the 11th seed?
Dude, I'm always here to bash the Knicks.
Second year Thibs.
But I think they're better than all of those teams you just mentioned. Maybe not the Bulls. Yeah.
Better than the Hornets in the regular season?
I think so.
Marco, what was your take again?
No, I was. That was it. Just the Hornets over the Knicks. That's all. That's my hot take,
ball.
I guess.
Ball. So Ariel,
The Thibs second year. That hurts. That hurts. It hurts your knees.
I will plant my flag on the Knicks being better than the Hornets in the regular season this coming year.
Okay, so we're gonna.
So we can track that as we go.
Yeah, we'll track this one. Anyways, everybody in the comments, thank you very much for showing out. For some reason, this went an hour long on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of September with no preseason basketball and just training
I
camp.
just did 3 shows back to back to back.
Yeah, Jimmy's gonna wake up for practice in about 3 hours, so we got to go ahead and get to bed. Alex has to get to bed so he can go ahead and cover Jimmy in 3 hours because this man has, I mean, he's got the culture vaccine. He's got to do it as a full-time job now, part-time job actually.
Yeah.
But
if you need an Uber, you can still hit me up.
the late night in front of FTX Arena. Absolutely. Exactly. So everybody in the comments, thank you for showing out. Had a very good time tonight. Hopefully we'll be back next week. Yes. Definitely at the very latest, we'll be back for a post-game show for the preseason. And everybody